Let's go ahead and actually turn the car on to accessory mode. So we'll press and hold for 10 seconds. And everything comes to life inside the car. And of course the dash is up. So we have our tire pressure up here, our fuel economy down here, and your trip information over here. Now this is the Tour setup. So if we come down here to the mode selector and change that over to sport, we're going to get a couple different pieces of information. So instead, we now have G-force up at the top left, oil temperature at the bottom left, and still the trip information over on the right. Now, all of this information can be changed by using the directional pad here. So if we actually hit the right arrow, it's going to give us the performance 0 to 60 timer. Right arrow again will show your audio information. And again, it will show us the maintenance, which is how much engine oil life you have left. And it also registers your transmission fluid life. Pretty cool stuff. We hit right again. This is going to allow us to change all of this information. So we can actually add speed warnings. We can add different information tiles. And you can, of course, change it to kilometers instead of miles per hour. We can change the heads-up display rotation on the screen. We can even relearn new remotes. And then, of course, your obligatory software versions and licenses, and we can reset everything to default. So there's a lot of stuff we can change in here. A lot of this is user programmable, which is pretty cool. I'm really impressed with the graphics, the animations, and how smooth everything is. Everything responds a lot faster than it did in the C7, and that's by itself just awesome. Let's go into display design and see what we can change in here. So just like with the C7, we can link it to the driver mode or just make it whatever we want separate from everything else being changed to track or sport. We can have the display stick on a certain level. So for this video, we're just going to select sport. We're going to keep it in sport because I think this is one of the cooler looking ones. So let's go down to info tiles and see what else is available here. So in here, you can actually go through and select what you want to show. So instead of G-force, we could have let's go with battery voltage. So we'll select that instead. And as you see up there at the top left, it changed from the G-force over to the battery voltage. And that's now going to be visible to you all the time while driving. Now, of course, over on the right, if we also go down further, we will also be able to deselect the leftmost option that is currently set at oil temperature. If we uncheck that, we can now change that to something else. For example, transmission fluid temperature. That's something you'd want to keep an eye on if you are tracking the car very often or anything like that. So these are definitely interesting options to keep an eye on depending on what you're doing with the car. But anyway, let's go down to the next one, which is your speed warning. Of course, the car is very smooth. So this is one I would recommend actually turning on if you're one that gets in trouble with the law a lot, because this car very easily exceeds the speed limit, and this will let you know, hey, you're going too fast, buddy, slow it down. And that's a good idea to have if you're not able to keep an eye on it yourself. And of course, we got the units. Like I said, we could change to kilometers instead of miles. We can actually relearn the tire pressure sensors here by selecting that option. That's if you change the tires or change the wheels for any reason and those tire sensors are replaced or moved around, you can relearn them from there. Like I said, the heads-up rotation just allows you to change the actual heads-up display and move it around if you need it to be moved. Remote key relearn is exactly what it sounds like. We're not going to do that though because the keys are fine for the car. Software licenses is just going to give you all the information of what the car has in it and whether it's up to date. Reset to defaults would obviously put everything back to the way it was when you first got the car, so we don't want to do that. But that's pretty much it. So those are all the options. Now, if we go over to the right again, it's asking you to press OK, basically, to simplify the display. So if I press that, it's gonna remove anything other than the RPM gauge. It's got multiple uses, so we could really use this even just for night driving if you don't want the display to be as bright. All you would have to do is hit the OK button again, and it brings it all back. And then we would just go back to the far left here, just so you are right back to where you started with your trip counter. Now, obviously, the second option over here is your performance timer. I would have given you guys my quickest 0 to 60 time if this car was over 500 miles and already broken in. I don't want to go and beat on somebody's car who has been kind enough to actually let me get into my first C8 and drive it. So I'm not going to be able to do that, but stay tuned because as soon as I get my car, I'm going to hit that 500 mile mark as fast as I can. And I'm going to show you what kind of 0 to 60 time I can get out of this thing. But other magazine companies and everything, they've all said pretty much 2.8 seconds all the way up to 3.1. Either way, this is a very fast car. Now, here is the mode selector turned to track mode. If you notice up at the top left there, kind of pulsating, is telling us that we have 0 oil pressure. Now, normally this would be a horrible thing to see if you're out driving, but I'm just sitting stationary with the car in accessory mode, so it's no big deal. But still, the track mode is giving us access to all kinds of imperative information here right off the bat. So we got the oil pressure, we got the transmission temperature, we got the oil temperature, we got the tire pressure. This is all important information you would need at a very quick glance while on the track. Now, just like with the sport mode, we can go and actually change the info tiles here. So if we don't want the tire pressure to show, which as you see listed there is actually tire status as well. If you look over on the left, it has the green highlight letting you know that the tires are basically good to go. If they were cold, those would be blue and it would be telling you, you know, tires are cold, you probably shouldn't be going crazy on the track. But anyway, for this, we're gonna go ahead and deselect that. Now we have an option to add something else. So for the track, maybe you wanna have a good idea of what your electronic limited slip differential is doing. So if we select that, now that is an option on the lower left-hand corner instead of the tire pressure. So we have a lot of adjustability here. You can really select all kinds of things. Not that you would ever need fuel economy on the track, but it's there. You got your lateral G-force, oil pressure, oil temperature, tire status, transmission fluid temperature, battery voltage. I mean, there's a lot of options to select here. So you can really make this car whatever you want it to be, and you can move these around. So if you wanted oil pressure, instead of being at the top left, you wanted that over on the top right, we would just unselect it and we could move it around from there and move everything over. So definitely pretty cool stuff, very adjustable, and that is pretty cool. So let's unselect oil temperature here and select transmission fluid. So as you can see, it just basically allows you to select in an order of top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right. As you're going through, just keep that in mind where you want those to be placed. That's how it's going to place them. And if you ever need to change it, you can just select it and change it to something else. So you're never locked into this stuff, but it's awesome that we have the ability to select all of these things. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for today's video. I just wanna give a huge thank you to Click Lewis here, right outside of Hershey. It's in Palmyra, Pennsylvania. They have been absolutely fantastic to me today, allowing me to drive this C8 Corvette. And of course, it's the dealership where I ordered my C8 Corvette, which is coming soon. And I want to also thank the owner. He chose to remain anonymous and not show up on the camera. That's absolutely fine, but I appreciate his efforts. Everything has been great today, and you just can't get better than a dealership that will let you have this kind of freedom. If you guys are in the market for a C8, any kind, you can put your deposit here at Click Lewis. I highly recommend it. You want to talk to my man, Mike Matarazzo right here. Tell him Horsepower Obsessed sent you.